The bodies of 20 children, 6 adults, and 1 shooter remain in a school today after a horrific scene unfolded at the Sandy Hook Elementary School here in Newtown, Connecticut. The process will be meticulous throughout the night to do what's called the positive identification. That's necessary in this forensic investigation now, after a day that has been rife with searching and trying to find those who could be responsible or might have information. As we know now, 20-year-old Adam Lanza is also dead in that school. The shooter, apparently. His brother, 24-year-old Ryan Lanza, taken in for questioning from Hoboken, not a suspect, but in for questioning. And Nancy Lanza, the mother of those 2 boys, found dead in her son's residence here in Newtown. Some of the scenes that emerged throughout the day were so astounding as people began to learn the magnitude of what transpired here. Take a look.
Our hearts are broken today.
Very horrific and difficult scene.
He had bullets going by him, and she grabbed him and another child and pulled them into a classroom.
3 people went out into the hall, and only one person came back.
They just told us that everybody that's missing, that's presumed missing, is in the school and they're dead.
It was really kind of mayhem in the room with all the kids and the teachers, trying to find your kid, identify where yours is, making sure that they're safe, and then trying to find out what the situation was and make sure everybody else is safe.
And some people were even like, they kind of felt they got a stomach ache.
It's the most traumatic event I've ever experienced or even considered.
They let the students, or my daughter and her teacher out, and as my daughter's walking out, she did see blood.
This is now appearing to be probably the worst schoolyard catastrophe in history.
Quite a few of the kids that we lost today are in this parish.
Beautiful little kids between the ages of 5 and 10 years old.
Well, these parents were waiting for their children to come out. They thought that they were, still alive.
How do you wrap your mind around something like this?
Community trying to make sense of what their governor said was evil visited upon this community today. I'm Ashley Banfield in Newtown, Connecticut. Anderson Cooper 360 starts right now.
Ashley, thanks very much. Good evening, everyone. There is, of course, only one story tonight. You know what it is. We have new details to tell you about, but we're not going to pretend that we understand it any better than we did right after it happened. It is a horror beyond words. An elementary school, kids as young as 5 years old. So, sadly, to the names Columbine and Jonesboro, we now have to add Newtown, Connecticut. To Virginia Tech, now add Sandy Hook Elementary, the second deadliest school shooting ever in the United States. 20 little kids, 7 adults killed, plus the shooter who apparently took his own life. All in a close-knit, quiet community about 90 minutes drive from New York. We're going to give you all the latest information tonight, but what we will not do is repeat the shooter's name over and over again. We don't want history to remember this murderer. We want history to remember the victims, the teachers, the children, those whose lives have been so unfairly taken. We have a team of correspondents working on this tragedy. We begin with Soledad O'Brien, who, of course, is on the scene. Soledad, there are vigils tonight. We'll be checking in with Soledad shortly. There are vigils tonight to tell you about as the people of Newtown try to come to grips with what happened. So much happened, and so much we have learned since this morning. Right now, there is still an active crime scene. Many of the bodies still where they fell, still inside that school, including that of the killer. We do at least tell you his name once. It's Adam Lanza. And as we said, we won't be saying it much tonight. He was 20 years old. His mother taught at the school. She was found dead at the family home, unclear when or how she died. We do know that she bought the weapons her son used today. She purchased them legally. We also know that police today in Hoboken, New Jersey, took the killer's older brother in for questioning. They did not label him a suspect. No word at this hour whether he's still in custody. There's a lot to tell you about this hour. Right now, though, let's start at the beginning.
Connecticut School District on lockdowns.
The first word was chilling. It only got worse.
They're reporting multiple fatalities involved in the shooting at the elementary school.
With each new report, the horror deepened.
Reports say the number of dead closer to 30 than to 20, and sadly, most of them are children.
Every detail, every fact brought more sadness. Each fresh piece of information a part of the picture. A school, kindergarten through 4th grade. A sanctuary that was supposed to be a place of safety, torn apart.
She heard, like, the intercom came on the school, and she heard a scream, and she heard a gunshot, or two gunshots, and then the school went into lockdown.
A student's teenage big brother describing the sounds of a gunman on the loose at Sandy Hook Elementary.
On and off duty troopers responded to the school, and with Newtown police immediately upon arrival entered the school and began a complete active shooter search of the building.
They arrived to carnage. The killer, says a law enforcement source with detailed knowledge, was dressed for battle in black fatigues and armed for mass murder with 2 pistols and a military-style rifle. In parts of the school, students were told to hide in corners. Teachers risked their own lives to pull boys and girls to safety.
Just so grateful to the teacher who saved him.
Okay, thank you. The teacher, you think the teacher saved his life?
She definitely did. He had bullets going by him, and she grabbed him and another child and pulled them into a classroom.
Eventually, the kids were evacuated to a nearby firehouse where frantic parents descended.
It was terrifying. I'm still terrified. I think I'm still in shock about it all. I still don't know everything that happened. I know that there are some people missing, that they've been taken to the hospital.
His son was okay. His son's teacher was alive as well. 20 other children and 6 adults were killed. The dead believed to include Sandy Hook school psychologist and the principal. Police discovered another adult victim, the gunman's mother, reportedly at home in Newtown. The gunman, too, is dead. Police say they fired no shots. A tight-knit community, including a nurse who lived nearby and rushed to help, shocked, distraught.
I see you've been crying.
Yes.
Is it because of what you saw?
One of the cops said it's, the worst thing he'd ever seen in his entire career. But it was when they told the parents, all these parents were waiting for their children to come out. They thought that they were, still alive. There's 20 parents that were just told that their children are dead. It was awful.
Awful. And late today, speaking for the nation, but also as a father, an emotional President Obama fought back tears.
This evening, Michelle and I will do what I know every parent in America will do, which is hug our children a little tighter. And we'll tell them that we love them. And we'll remind each other how deeply we love one another. But there are families in Connecticut who cannot do that tonight. And they need all of us right now.
We're going to bring you all of President Obama's comments later on in this hour ahead. Soledad O'Brien joins me now. She's on the scene along with Lieutenant J. Paul Vance of the Connecticut State Police. Soledad?
And also joining him is Lieutenant George Cinco. He's with the Newtown Police. Gentlemen, I appreciate your time. I know you spent a long time here for this full day on the scene. You've just come back from being inside the scene. Right. You said you're going to be processing the scene through Sunday. Lay out for me what that means exactly.
There's a lot of work that goes into a criminal investigation like this. Certainly the documentation is extremely important. But the priority that we have right now is identifying the victims. As we said, there are 18 children in there, there are 6 adults, and there's the shooter. We need to positively identify each one of those victims. The medical examiner's office is working on this right now to begin that process, and we're certainly hopeful that we can accomplish that by sometime in the early morning hours.
So do you mean to tell me that the bodies of the children and those who've been killed are still where they fell?
That's correct.
And
yes.
They will still be there until Sunday?
Yes, they will.
Have you allowed any of the parents to see their children?
No, this is a crime scene. What we need to do is we need to identify them. We have a tentative identification on all of them, but we need to positively identify them, and we're doing that for the parents as quickly as we possibly can.
I know you've talked in other press conferences about the partners that you have in this investigation. Can you fill me in on what they're telling you about what's happening in Hoboken, for example, where we know the shooter's brother certainly has been interviewed by officials there, and we also know that the shooter's father has been talking to law enforcement as well?
Well, first of all, we have not identified anyone. I'll make that perfectly clear. We will not identify anyone until we have them positively identified, but we are working with other law enforcement partners as needed. As our investigators cross a line and determine they need information from somewhere out of state, regardless of what it might be, we'll get our law enforcement partners from that state to accomplish that task for us. There have been issues in New Jersey and other states where our investigators have contacted state police agencies in those states to assist us in this case.
Lieutenant Cinco, let me ask you a question if I can. We have been told that the person who is believed to be the shooter, now deceased, inside the building still had no criminal record as far as we know. But there are often things that they call known to police, a family that had, been contacting police, people that you, as a police officer in this town, as a lieutenant, would know them. Can you tell me a little bit more about this family?
Well, at this time, we're not really going to comment on the family. As Lieutenant Vance said, we're not confirming any identities at this time until we're sure positively who we have here. And we're going to try to do that for you tomorrow.
Is there any narrative that you have been able to piece together about what exactly happened? We have information about the weaponry, we have information about the victims, we have information about people in different states now being questioned. Is there any story that answers the big question, which is why?
No, I don't think so, and that's something that we will make every effort to do. Between Newtown and State Police detectives, we're working together. We will leave no stone unturned. We're going to go back as far as we need to go. We'll uncover every bit of information we need to uncover, and we'll try to answer the question as to why. We consider an investigation like this, number one, to be massive. And number two, it's like a big puzzle. We've got to put all the pieces together to try and draw a picture as to how and why this occurred.
There have been reports that the shooter, I know you are not naming him, but he has been named in some reports, had a personality disorder, or in some descriptions, a mental disorder. Can you confirm that?
We can't. We can't discuss at this point in time anything to do with any of the victims or any of the deceased whatsoever until we're prepared to do so. We anticipate that will be tomorrow, but we would rather, for investigatory reasons, withhold that information at this time.
When will you allow parents to go and get the bodies of their children?
As soon as we can confirm. We're very early into the investigation, but it's obviously a very sensitive matter. We have to make sure we're right.
Oh, it must be absolutely horrible and brutal for people who are still waiting to see those that they lost. Thank you for talking to us. Lieutenant Vance and Lieutenant Cinco, both with the state police and with the Newtown police as well. As you can imagine, Anderson, the tone here is just terrible and so sad and just fraught with grief as well. We're going to continue to talk to some people who are just still grappling and trying to understand what exactly happened here today. I want to send it back to you, though.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it's something we can ever truly understand, that we can get as many details as we can, and we are trying to do that. And we're trying to do that with as much respect for those in mourning and for that community as possible. It is impossible to fathom what the people of Newtown are going through, in particular the parents and the siblings and the family members of the children whose little lives were taken today. So many lives today lost and so many more lives forever changed. Friends and neighbors, even complete strangers, have gathered and continue to at this hour to hold one another, to cry, to pray, to remember. This, a vigil tonight at a local church. Jason Carroll is there and joins us now. Jason, you've been outside. What have people been saying to you? What has the mood been like?
Here at St. Rose Lima Church, Anderson, the people here, the hundreds who are gathered outside that you see behind me, simply because there wasn't enough room inside the church, they are stunned. I mean, there's no other word for it. They are stunned. They are hurt. They're here because they are leaning on each other for support. When you're hurt so badly like this, you turn to your loved ones, you turn to your family, in some cases, you turn to your faith. And that's what we're seeing. That's what's happening outside as this vigil continues through the night. In talking to the people here, even in trying to get to where we were, Anderson, we passed a Starbucks. A woman got out of the car next to me. She was in tears. And then we went by a restaurant. A woman was outside there, her husband, a young boy. They were very upset. And then as we came down the road here where this church is, I saw a woman. She was just walking down the street. She looked like she was just stunned. Just completely stunned. She was just crying and just wandering down the street. So even before we got to even close to the scene of where it had happened, you knew how deeply hurt this community was by what had happened. And that's what we're seeing happening outside here. This is a very close community. So it's no surprise, Anderson, that a number of the people that you see behind me knew some of these children, knew some of the faculty at the school. And in fact, we ran into one man who was here tonight, who knew the principal of the school, Dawn Lafferty Hochsprung, talked about her, saying how much she loved the school, loved her children. I just want you to listen to what he had to say about her. Well, let me just tell you that in terms of what he had to say, it was that this was a woman who cared very deeply, not just about the school where she had worked since June of 2010, but also that she cared very deeply about the students, cared very deeply about her job. It was very tough for him to take, and that's why he and so many others are here tonight. Anderson?
And Jason, I know you got a chance to talk to the deacon in the community as well.
Oh, that's true. Deacon Cinto, in fact, he is helping out in the vigil tonight. And before things got underway, I said, what have you been doing? He said, Jason, literally nearly 100 people have come to the church doors so far today looking for support.